How to manage acid reflux as a singer. Here we go. This video is probably going to be a bit long, but I feel for anybody that is struggling with acid reflux and wants to know what's going on, I think it's important that I get into the context of everything I've been through up to this point so that you can maybe understand where you're at with your situation. So my situation started in March 2020 when COVID became a thing. I was third year in drama school and I was singing every day, never had an issue with reflux. My voice always felt really strong, really reliable, and I never really had to worry about it. Then COVID happened and I got COVID pretty much straight away. And about 2 to 3 weeks after having COVID, I went back to singing and I noticed that I could still sing, but it felt like my stamina had disappeared. Like I would maybe be singing for 10 minutes and then I was just absolutely busted, like my voice was done. So I assumed that I was still just probably like in recovery mode from COVID. So I was like, you know what, I'll take another couple of weeks off and then I'll be absolutely fine. And then I went back to singing a couple of weeks later, and by that point, I literally couldn't sing anymore. I could still kind of sing in my like low chest register and I could kind of still sing in my falsetto, but the main bulk of my range, anything in my like mid to upper chest range, anything mixy, basically 90% of my range had completely disappeared. And when I tried to sing in that place, the sound was so raspy and so hoarse, but it's not like I could still maybe hit the note. I just sounded a bit gravelly. It was so gravelly that it didn't even sound like I was like hitting a note anymore. It didn't sound like I was vocalizing. So my voice was fucked is what I'm trying to say. And this had never happened before. I didn't feel any different. My speaking voice felt absolutely fine. I wasn't experiencing any pain. Like everything felt fine. It's just when I went to sing, my voice had just completely disappeared. I assumed it was nodules. I assumed it was a polyp. Around the same time, Natalie Weiss uploaded a video to her YouTube talking about how she lost her voice because of a vocal hemorrhage. And I was like, it's a vocal hemorrhage, this is what I have. And she said that a vocal hemorrhage can heal on its own with vocal rest. So I went on vocal rest for 4 days, went back to singing, voice was still screwed. So then I eventually went to an ENT, so I got the camera up the nose and down the throat, and she told me that my vocal cords were in pristine condition. They were her exact words. So obviously I punched her in the face. Then she went a bit closer and could see that there was a tiny bit of inflammation on a certain part of my cords because of acid reflux. And I was like, I don't have acid reflux. And then she was like, oh, well, if you don't experience symptoms of it, it's silent reflux, which is basically just silent reflux without the symptoms, and you mostly get it in your sleep. So she obviously told me about all the behavioral stuff you're supposed to do, like limiting caffeine, spicy food, leaving a good couple of hours between your last meal and going to bed, sleeping with an extra pillow under your head, like all that stuff. But then she also gave me omeprazole, which is just like the standard reflux medication that a GP or doctor will normally give you if you have reflux. 6 months go by and I still can't sing. The omeprazole is doing nothing. I am getting so strict with the behavioral stuff. I cut caffeine. I cut chocolate. I cut out spicy food. I was leaving a good like 5 or 6 hours before my last meal and then going to bed. Nothing was helping. And then I came across a video on YouTube of a guy talking about how a lot of people don't get reflux because of too much acid in the stomach, but because of too little acid in the stomach. And to combat that, he takes apple cider vinegar, specifically unpasteurized with the mother, which is basically just the bits in the bottom. So I was like, oh, it's not going to work, but I've tried everything else, so fuck it, let's find out. After 5 days of taking apple cider vinegar, I was able to sing for the first time in over a year. My voice completely came back. I sounded exactly how I had right before getting COVID. Hello? I couldn't believe it, so I obviously stopped taking the omeprazole and basically just stuck with this bad boy for like 2 years and had no issues. My voice felt great the entire time. I pretty much went back to eating anything I wanted whenever I wanted. Like, reflux was not an issue. And if anybody's curious, I took 2 tablespoons of this diluted with maybe like a little bit of water on an empty stomach in the morning before having any breakfast, and then usually before dinner as well. To be honest, it got to the point where I didn't even need to be as consistent with this anymore, and I would maybe just take it in the morning, or just take it before dinner, or maybe I would skip a day, or maybe I would skip a couple of days. As long as I was taking it regularly enough, like, I was absolutely fine. So I just assumed I was like cured. Wrong. So now we're going to skip ahead to, I'm going to say, summer 2023. At that time, I was doing a show called Choir of Man on a cruise ship, singing a very, very vocally difficult role. And I all of a sudden started to feel like something was wrong with my voice. And previously, when my voice started to feel weird, I was like, oh, it's a reflux thing. But the weird thing this time round was that I was actually starting to experience reflux symptoms, which I'd never had before. Getting the indigestion, getting the heartburn, waking up in the morning, kind of feeling kind of the inflammation. And I hadn't really taken apple cider vinegar in a long time. So I was like, oh, it's just because I haven't taken the vinegar in a while. So bought a bottle of this stuff, started taking it again, and it wasn't helping. In fact, it actually felt like it was making things worse, and I was just like constantly like refluxy. And for anybody else who's been in this situation, being a professional performer, singing a very, very difficult role while constantly dealing with some kind of reflux, it is a fucking nightmare because it makes singing so much more difficult. So I assumed because the vinegar wasn't working anymore, I now have too much acid in my stomach, so now I need to take antacids to get rid of it. So naturally, I got on the Gaviscon. Apparently, I think this might be worth mentioning, apparently the British formula of this is better than the American formula, and we were in America at the time, so I was having the American formula. So whether or not that's important to mention, I'll mention it anyway. So I started taking Gaviscon, and that also wasn't helping. So then I became really conscious of my diet again, was eating like relatively plain stuff, trying to limit coffee. I was still having coffee because I was in a show, and I'm not doing a show without coffee, you know what I mean? But I was being careful, like I was being strict, but all the while still trying to sing this really, really tough show that requires every single part of my voice. But by this stage, I had realized that the reflux specifically targeted like a specific part of my range, which I really needed to use in this show. So it was just like, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. So I finished the job, come back to London, go to a GP, and I explained this whole situation to her right from the beginning, getting put on omeprazole, then finding the vinegar, blah, blah, blah. And she basically looked at me like I had three tits and was like, no, that's wrong. Nothing you're saying makes sense. There's no reason why omeprazole didn't work and the vinegar would. You're wrong. We just need to put you on lansoprazole, which is basically just a more intense version of omeprazole. And I was like, okay, I'm going to trust you because you're a doctor, but I'm just letting you know that I know for a fact once I go on this, my voice is going to be gone in like a week. And she's like, you're so stupid. No, it's not. And I was like, okay, doctor, 3 days, voice gone. Voice gone. And that was a really weird period because I was basically bouncing between taking things to get rid of acid and taking things to give me more acid because like neither were working. So I started taking the lansoprazole. It like immediately destroyed my voice. So I very quickly came off that and simply noticed by not being on that stuff that my voice got better. So I knew for a fact that was a no-go. I would then go back to taking the vinegar for a bit, and then it wasn't really helping. Granted, my voice was better with this stuff than it was with the lansoprazole, but I still felt symptoms of reflux. I still could hear it in my singing voice and hear it in specific parts of my range, that like I was losing stamina and things were just inflamed, and my voice, it just wasn't right. My voice did not feel right. I was then back on the Gaviscon for a bit. I always felt like it would help short term, and then after a couple of days it was actually making my voice worse. But the problem with taking antacids, so Gaviscon, omeprazole, lansoprazole, Reni, whatever it is, for a lot of people, they cover the solution short term, but then they actually make the symptoms of reflux worse down the line. So then you're having to rely on these to keep it at bay. And I think this is definitely what happened to me, because anytime I would take Gaviscon specifically, my voice would feel good for maybe a couple of days, and then it would by the end feel worse. So I found that I've never really been able to take Gaviscon or anything like that long term, because it might help one night if you've been eating really late or something like that. But after a couple of days, my voice is even worse than it was before if I take this. So then cut to January and February of 2024, and I am back doing Choir of Man, but this time in Australia. And I was experiencing really bad reflux with symptoms pretty much the entire time. And again, trying to vocally sustain that role and navigate that show with your voice in that state. It's just, wouldn't recommend. And after Australia, I basically continued to struggle until the end of the year. It's now January 2025. Happy New Year, by the way. My voice has pretty much been screwed most of this year. I think I can count on one hand the amount of weeks I've had this last year where my voice has actually just felt normal or fine and I've been able to sing. Most of the time it's felt really inconsistent. I bounce between the Gaviscon again, or I'll bounce between the vinegar, like just, it's been a really, really frustrating time. And then also it creates so much anxiety around like gigging, auditions, because you never know how your voice is going to feel. And it also means that you can never trust your voice because you're never in a state of readiness. If I have an audition on Friday, I need to start prepping for that audition on Monday because I'm always in a state of having to bounce back. But I do have some things. So I had some really important shows happening this year in London. They were like one night only gigs where they were really, really big sings, and I just really, really needed my voice to be in good shape for these shows. And by this point, I had definitely came to the conclusion that anything to take acid away, omeprazole, lansoprazole, Gaviscon, I had already concluded that like, right, that stuff is just not for me. So I did even more research into people who have low stomach acidity and what they take to help that. And I came across another YouTube video, thank God for YouTube, of a guy talking about how he takes betaine HCl, so hydrochloric acid, basically. It comes in tablet form, like that. And you basically are supposed to take one before each meal. And I very quickly noticed a big difference in my voice, particularly because reflux mainly affects my like thick fold, full chest belt sound. So I know how bad my reflux has been by how effectively I'm able to sing in that place. And that's the part of my voice that had basically been screwed all year. But as soon as I started taking these, that part of my range felt much, much freer and easier to sing in. So these helped a lot, and they definitely had my voice in better shape for those particular concerts. The issue with these is that even though I could notice a positive change in my voice, I almost felt like they were making me more refluxy, and I constantly had that really, really awful like sour taste in the back of my mouth that you commonly get when you have reflux. So even though they definitely made singing easier, the constant sour acidic taste in the back of my mouth, I was like, that's not right. It's definitely, there's something going on there. So then I experimented with how many I was taking. I went from taking 3 a day to taking 2 a day, and then for a while I was just taking like 1 before dinner. Like I was messing around with the dosage, and again I still constantly had that really sour acidic taste in my mouth. But then I came across another YouTube video, thank God for YouTube. And it was a lovely lady who said that some people take this, but other people take this. So these are digestive enzymes. I just got these for like 12 quid in Holland and Barrett. And these also contain a little bit of hydrochloric acid. But the reason why these might help people more is that these specifically just target and help break down protein in your diet, whereas digestive enzymes help you break down everything. So it might not be as strong at breaking down the protein, but it is a general kind of assistance with breaking down all food groups. Because for some people, the protein might be the issue. For other people, it might be vegetables, carbs, whatever. So these are just a bit more of a helping hand across the board. They might not be as strong as these, but they're more bases are covered, let's just say that. And I've now been on these a couple of weeks, and I went to sing last night, and guys, my voice felt really good. That full, thick fold, chest, belty sound, that felt really, really great. But also, I haven't been experiencing the acidic taste in the back of my mouth. So it's still early days, things might change, and I might need to revert back to these at some point. But I think for now, we might be onto a bit of a winner with these bad boys. These are the multi-digestive enzyme formula plus betaine hydrochloride. As I said, I just got these at Holland and Barrett, but you can get this stuff anywhere. You can get it like on Amazon, like wherever. But yeah, that's where we're at. So we're going to keep on this stuff for the next wee while to see how we get on. If there's any updates, good or bad, I will let you know. But yeah, big love to any singers who are experiencing issues at the minute. I cannot tell you the amount of anxiety, panic, fear it has caused specifically in the last year. It's just, yeah, as a singer, it really can ruin your life. So hopefully between all of the things I've shown you and talked about, hopefully something helps. I'm rooting for you, I really am. And if you like the video, please subscribe, like, comment, share, all that nice stuff. And I'll see you for the next one. Love yous!